A resounding applause. The radiance of a rainbow fills the auditorium of Yumenosaki Academy. The chaotic torrent of 7 colors, glow sticks that act as votes, show the highest possible score. 10 points, a perfect score. It was the best, most perfect live show with no missing pieces. While it might be a view that I'm used to seeing, it doesn't change the fact that it's a very pleasant one. It's as if I'm dreaming. Such an unreal spectacle, by their own hands. The fantastic rainbow made by the audience waves scatters and collides without control. I never get tired of looking at it. But I cannot be so moved by this every single time. I cannot allow myself to lose composure, to shed tears, or to delay this journey I arranged over something of this degree. I might be overwhelmed with emotions to the point where I really do feel like crying, but the ones who should be moved are not the idols, but the audience. I can't mix things up like that. Shall we bring back some order? I take a shaky breath and wave my hand at the audience with a smile. I adjust myself perfectly, making sure that my voice, enlarged by the microphone, will not be mixed with my ragged breaths. Smiling, I take a bow. The cheers explode even further. I feel loved. I dedicate this victory to all of you. My comrades around me take a step back behind me, waving their hands modestly. With pure white costumes, imitating angels decorated with gold. We're symbols of hope, bringing order to this chaotic, corrupted city that was Yumenosaki Academy. We're heroes sent from heaven to put a stop to everything in these remaining days, playing the trumpets to signal the end. Springing a revolution, we shot down the tyrants and resounded a victory song. It was a long and painful battle, but it ends today. It's likely that I am the only one who would find that somewhat sad. Those endearing 5 oddballs and that delightful king, too, have all hung their heads, defeated by me. I am the only one remaining, holding my bruised weapons, my comrades, and yet all I can do is stand here. I wouldn't mind if this was the end. This story has a happy ending, right? I have done what I needed to do. What awaits is a boring and tedious sequel continuing on for eternity. Well, my comrades were excellent, irreplaceable tools. They were so obedient that it was rather boring. Perhaps I was just aiming too high, however, because they were still useful pawns. Even with the lack of enjoyment, as long as victory is attained, all is perfect. As an idol, I am fulfilled. And to the audience who only knows one side of us, our idol side, that should be plenty. If we can share our endless dreams just by letting them sit in their seats, I'll be happy. Have our dreams chopped, boiled, grilled, dripping with sauce, just as you like it. Let us have a grand feast. Welcome to our restaurant. I hope you are all plenty satisfied. To a cook, it's more than one deserves. Even if you don't want any more, let us stuff you full until your stomach ruptures, just like in a pleasant fairy tale. But for today, we're closed. Thank you for coming to see us today. Finally, I lower my head deeply. From the very top of this Yumenosaki Academy, I'm basked in praise. Let's curry favor like a slave just for a moment, shall we? These are my true feelings. Thank you for bringing a rainbow to my boring, suffocating life. Thank you for involving yourselves, for meeting us. Thank you for coming to see us, for enjoying yourselves. From the bottom of my heart, I'm glad I was born. Oh? While the spotlight shines on me, I spot a charming sight. In the very front row of the audience, A small child is leaning forward, too forward, as if to climb up onto the stage. In a panic, a young man, his guardian, it seems, who was sitting beside him, holds him back with his arms from behind. I see those two often. I'm quite good at remembering faces. They are regulars to our live shows. Red with excitement, a pretty young boy with pink hair makes a loud racket like a baby bird. Though his fine, ready-made clothes were perhaps not yet a perfect fit for him, it just made him seem even more adorable, really. Himamiya Tori, was it? I know him, seeing him quite a bit in our social circle. As lip service, I had invited him to one of my live shows once as a greeting, and it seems he's been entranced ever since. He frequents rather a lot. I'm thankful. You're a lot like me when I was younger. Until I encountered the concept of idols, the Grim Reaper, otherwise known as boredom, slashed my entirety. My soul was empty. But then that same lonely soul was dyed with song. My wounds healed. I could feel the fullness of life. That is why I became an idol. Will you come over here as well? I beckoned Tori-kun with my hand. Apparently overwhelmed with emotion, I could see tears in his eyes as he nods and attempts to climb up on the stage. But of course the young guardian continues to desperately hold him back. I see that young man quite often as well, but we are not close, so I'm not sure what his relationship with Tori-kun is. Ever since I entered Yumenosaki Academy, I only occasionally showed up in social gatherings. I have no interest in the wills of dignitaries. They're so boring I could yawn. My life is my own. It's a fleeting one at any rate, and I will use everything for my own self. I won't let anybody complain, not father, not mother, not my ancestors, not even God. Recalling my interest, I observe his young guardian. He's a beauty as always. The mole under his eye is sexy indeed, but while well-tempered, rather than being a gemstone carefully worked on by a craftsman, he is a beauty formed by being caught up in rough, storming seas. With somewhat long hair tied at the back, his attire is rough. You could call it rock, even. His appearance boasts being a street fighter. What kind of relationship do you have with the noble and elegant young Master Himamiya, I wonder? I'm curious. But now is not the time to be thinking of trivial things. I'm still standing above the stage in this brilliant dream. Aiming for the top, I came all the way here. For that brilliant enveloping rainbow, all the idols I have defeated and the remnants of their dreams. I have trampled over them all. Today I have conquered. Tomorrow, and every day after that, I will aim even further. To the solitary top, to a position of a god that can reform all, to my end point, Fine. Thank you. The moment I utter those words, the curtains begin to lower down in front of the stage. It's time to say a temporary farewell to the audience and to their shining rainbow lights. Just thinking about it gives me a sense of reluctance. I wanted to see more. I attempt to raise my head. I feel a wave of dizziness. What a bother. The curtains have not yet completely come down, my role yet to be perfectly completed. I have to remain majestic and dignified, reigning to the very end. I'm sorry, my endearing enemies. At the very least, I wanted to be triumphant and smiling, elegantly, arrogantly. That is my obligation as somebody who has taken and devoured the dreams of others. Taking every other dream, I bloomed my own flower of a dream, even if it may be an ugly one. for the countless remains of those who scattered without blossoming. The audience is still watching. As my consciousness starts to fade, before I could collapse right then and there, a pair of strong arms appears to support me. One of my comrades, I wonder? Maybe they can be considerate once in a while after all. I look up with that in mind, only to see a troubled, wry smile of one of my enemies. With silver hair like moonlight that drives humans mad, it is tied up in a rather unique way. His physique and good looks can't properly be expressed with a few words. He was a fine, beautiful man, like a hero in a story. His stature may be quite similar to mine, but I'm weak after all. From how I see him, he looks splendid and large. The uniform he wears is different than mine. He was my opponent in today's live show, today's Dream Fest. A strong enemy that I had to defeat in the end, no matter what. As soon as their roles finished, my comrades returned back to the stage wings. They're outstanding, but businesslike. There's no point in acting out pretend friendships like some cheap shonen manga. Such a thing doesn't have the power to change reality. I know it, but it's still rather sad. While they had at least spared a glance after my near collapse, my comrades left without a care or a hand to hold out. I have overworked them after all, and they probably resent me. In order to build my empire, I have destroyed countless enemies, but I have also been forced to sacrifice my comrades. I am a tyrant. I am aware that the throne is a solitary place. I chose that path. I could not have changed Yumenosaki Academy otherwise. It's possible that there was another way, a more lovely way of doing things, like the kind that existed in stories that little boys and girls admire and engross themselves in reading. But I could only choose the path that led me neck-deep in a sea of blood. And that's why, even if it's with an enemy, I longed for warmth, being supported by arms, embraced. Unconsciously wanting to be spoiled, I rest my cheek against my enemy. His name is Hibiki Wataru, one of the endearing 5 oddballs, and a beautiful, foolish clown. A genius, distinguished from the common masses. I feel a slight sense of affinity with you. I'm sure you hate me to death, though. How unsightly. For somebody as talkative as him, it's unusual for him to express words so frankly. But it's as you say, compared to you, I truly am pathetic. Shameful, just undignified. I've had poor health since birth. I've lived on, constantly being told how I only had just a few months to live. Carried to the hospital after every live show, dragging my weak body. Built by prescription drugs, drip infusions, and hospital food. This distorted body of mine is just putting up a strong front, decorated fancily as much as I could. While I possessed all that others wanted, I hung my head like a loser who had lost everything. Like a loser in life itself. My endearing enemy, I wish I could have been somebody like you, blessed by God with a wealth of talent and natural looks, brilliant and loved by everyone. Like the main character of a story, I wanted to involve myself in the world with a glorious existence. I was envious of you, of all of you. Hey, Wataru, you might not believe me, but you were my hero, my idol. So in the end, I defeated you. I had all the heroes I've admired crawling at my feet, overcoming my inferiority complex. I obtained life. An ephemeral, vain dream, but my life. My story. My body trembles, and I throw up. Unable to hold it in, I cough up a mass of blood. Ah, Wataru's beautiful, graceful, perfect face is dirtied with blood. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for being born. Suddenly, I awaken. How much of that was a dream, I wonder? It would be nice if it was all just a dream I saw from my hospital bed. To be honest, half my life was filled with things that sounded too good to be true. A bunch of lies, like the comics made for children that my beloved childhood friend often drew for me. But it wasn't a dream. I'm amidst chaos once again, in the familiar garden terrace of Yumenosaki Academy. Considering the shine of the sinister moon, it seems to be late at night. My surroundings were excessively noisy. From the somewhat distant auditorium, I can hear music being played. How nostalgic. This must be one of Undead's songs. Has that retired vampire come crawling out of his coffin? His grave? I've only taken my eyes off of it for just a moment, but it looks like the story has entered a new expansion. It looks like I still can't be the main character after all. Today, this planet, this universe, this Yumenosaki Academy, they all continue to go on, without a regard to my circumstances. Left behind by the events happening right before my eyes, I tilt my head in bewilderment. Am I still half asleep? Well, it has been a while since I've walked around. I know I've said that I can have my personal things picked up and dropped off by car, but that's much too troublesome. I wanted to walk around with my own 2 feet. Maybe I'm just in the middle of my rebellious phase. I tend to forget quite easily, but I'm still a high schooler. What I'm wearing right now, it's been such a long time since I've put my arms through those sleeves, is the uniform of my school, of Yumenosaki Academy. Strangely, despite the somewhat chilly season, I feel warmth. An awfully extravagant blanket sits on my lap, and a woolen hat and scarf keeps my body safe from the cold. How warm. Such overprotective behavior is probably Yuzuru's work. It seems like he just happened to come across me sleeping and, while taking care not to wake me up, did all of this in consideration of my health. He's a thoughtful boy, as always. I wouldn't have minded if he woke me up. Never mind that I was so tired that I actually dozed off. Just by accidentally oversleeping, I was this close to missing the much-awaited stage, the turning point of an era. In the slight distance, I spot Yuzuru, with the small, adorable Tori sitting on his shoulders. It seems like he's bringing the audience gathered around the auditorium into order. Red in the face, Tori yells, but something like that wouldn't disperse the chaos. Receiving the full brunt of Tori's anger, Yuzuru has a tired look on his face as he has his hair pulled at. Despite the reasonable distance between us, Yuzuru somehow notices my gaze. He greets me with a slight bow, eyes crinkling in a smile. Waving my hand, I mouth, "Good work." I would have liked to help him, really. It's exactly what Wataru has talked about in his numerous visits to my hospital room. It looks like Yumenosaki Academy has found itself in the middle of an amusing situation. Now then, what shall I do? Suppression would be simple and easy. By using all the power I have, mobilizing my wealth and authority, I can clean up the fuss in the blink of an eye. But I've only just been discharged from the hospital. It'd be troublesome, to be honest, and I tend to leave all the troublesome things for Kaito to handle. If whatever is happening now is something that he can handle, then it's just the usual fuss Yumenosaki Academy frequently deals with. Not anything that can change an era. But if it's some bizarre, outlandish situation that even Kaito can't deal with, well, That's interesting in its own right. For someone to suddenly come from the stage wings at the very end to intrude on an already spun story, putting an end to it in an irrational way, a deus ex machina that would be such a killjoy. However, I'm not mature enough to just watch on pretending to be a bystander. Kato would lecture me to death later if I just stood around doing nothing after all. I ponder on what I should do when the shrubbery nearby rustles. A cat, maybe? I wonder, glancing over nonchalantly. Apparently, the garden terrace is a very nice, comfortable place to sleep in. Cats and Ritsu-kun, a member of the tea club like I am, tend to turn it into their bed. Which is why it's not a surprise if such an adorable creature pops up unexpectedly like that. And it's in this garden terrace where I first met her. Head sticking out, she breaks through the shrubbery and her eyes widen. Riddled with leaves, flower petals, and mud, they slightly spoiled her lovely face. She pops out with her hair frayed, kneeling on the ground in a slightly pitiful way, and freezes, tilting her head. Like a stray cat, a lovable creature not yet belonging to anybody. But she's wearing a Yumenosaki Academy uniform. A girl's uniform at that. In the idol course, it shouldn't exist in the first place. It was a specially designed uniform, different from the ones in the regular course. Ah, I understand. Currently, there is only one person who would be wearing this uniform. During my hospitalization, I heard it during a bedtime story from Wataru. It looks like we finally met. It's an honor. So you're the rumored transfer student, Chan. I think about greeting her, but it looks like she's in quite a hurry. As I stare at her, she greets me with a somewhat troubled half-smile and rushes towards the auditorium. A slender girl like her would be unable to avoid that dense crowd of people, which is why she most likely decided to use a loophole and break through the thickets of the deserted garden terrace. Yuzuru probably arranged to keep the place off-limits so that I could sleep peacefully. Because of that, I was lucky enough to exchange looks with her, if only for a split second. Let me thank God for this miracle, for this chance meeting. Of course, she would know nothing about me. Not even a month has passed since she transferred in, and I had been hospitalized for such a long time. There was no opportunity for any encounter. But I've heard many stories about the eye of the storm in Yumenosaki Academy that breathes fresh air, new life into this closed-off school. What a mysterious girl, like the main character of a story. While she probably doesn't mean to, she runs over to the crowded auditorium with a passerby kind of face. In the palm of her hand, she holds a ticket for a special seat. It looks like a unit she has met and gotten close with, a unit she loves, is performing a live show today. She is shaking with expectations as well as anxiety, but she looks happy, a nice, fulfilled expression. Not bad at all. I'm rather envious. Youth should be enjoyed to its full extent. Flowers have a short life after all. Now then, I can't just stay sitting here forever. I'll follow Transfer Student Chan and head towards the auditorium as well. In my hands, I hold the same exact ticket. From the special seats, I can watch the live show of these revolutionaries and the miracle they're creating right up close. If I'm able to, I'd like to at least give them an applause. After that, I should introduce myself to her again, properly. My name is Tenshuin Eichi, Yumenosaki Academy's Student Council President. Some people call me Emperor.